Hello and welcome to the third video in my Part 4 Java MTA course. In this one we're going to be looking at logical and rational operators. So as always what we're going to be doing is looking at the key information as quickly as possible, and then I'm going to be asking you a number of questions so you can cement the knowledge learned in this video. So let's get started. So in the MTA exam you need to be aware of the different types of operator groups. We've already covered a few of them. So in the last video we've covered what a ternary operator is. We've already covered in previous videos the assignment operators. In this video we're going to be talking about the rational and logical ones. So let's focus on the rational one first. So if you're not aware of this flowchart and how it represents an if statement, then I would suggest you go back and have a look at the video looking at the if statement. The rational operators are the operators that you can apply within that condition. So these are the different types of operators that you must know. You have the less than, the greater than, the less than and equals to, the greater than and equals to, the equals to, and the not equals to. So I've just quickly run them down. We're going to go through them in questions to allow you to cement the operators and get you to apply the knowledge into questions. Do remember that the common questions in the exam will be things like whether you'll need to apply the less than or less than and equals to. So those kind of questions are common. So when should you apply the less than? When should you apply the less than and equals to? And those are the kind of questions you'll encounter later on. Before we move on to the questions, we're going to quickly cover the logical operators. So we know what the rational operators allow us to do. They allow us to implement a condition within our if statement. The logical ones allow us to have more than one condition. So we're allowed to put an or in there. And what this means is we have the condition, the first one. So we're saying if x is greater than y, if it's true, then this code is executed. If it's false, we can look at the second condition. We'll say if y is equal to 0, if it's true, this code is executed. If this false, then the false code is executed, or no code is executed. So the logical operators allow us to add in additional conditions to our if statement. There are three logical operators that you need to know, and you need to know the symbol that represents them in Java. So if you want and means both of the conditions must be true for the statement to be executed, the true statement to be executed, then we use the double and symbol. Again, if we want or, we have the two lines here, and this means this or this condition must be true for the true statement to be executed. And the last one, the not. So this changes the result from true to false or false to true. So these are the three operators that you must remember for the MTA exam. So let's get to those questions. So we have two pieces of code here. The top one is the first piece of code, the bottom one is the second piece of code. What I would like you to do is use the code to answer the questions. So pause the video now and try and answer those 4 questions. So hopefully you've paused the video. Let's go through them. So number 1, what is the output of the first piece of code? Well, if we look here, we have 2 variables, number 1, number 2. Our first if condition is saying if number 1 is equal to 10, which is not, so that condition is not true. But we have an or statement here, which means that if this condition is true, we'll print A. So is number 2 greater than 100? It is not, so that condition doesn't exist, or that condition is false. So we move down to our else if. So this one has an and operator, so that means that we need both of them to be correct. So if we look at number 1, is number 1 5? No, so that means we can move down to number 3, our else if. So here it's saying number 2 is not equals to 10, so if we look 10, it is equal to 10, so that would be false. So the first answer, number 1, is I'm not sure what the answer is. So that would be for the output of for the first piece of code. If we look at number 2 now, again we have 2 variables, number 1 and number 2, 5 and 10. If we look here, we've got our OR statement and our NOT statement. So let's first have a look at this. So is number 1 less or equal to 5? Yes, it is. So it equals 5. So that would be true. But because we have that not there, what this means is it changes our true to false. So that means that this one would be false. So we go down to the next one. So is number 1 equals to 5? Yes, it is. Remember that we have this AND, so that means both conditions must be correct for this code to execute. So we look at number 10. Is number 2 equal to 10? It is. So the second one will output wrong. So let's go to the third question. If you wanted to output C in the first piece of code, what would you insert into the number 2 variable? Okay, so if we get rid of all of the notes that we've made, so the idea of number C, this is what we want to print out, and all we need to do is make sure it's not 10. So anything here, instead of 10, any other number would allow us to print out C, as long as it doesn't match up with any of these 2 things. So it can't be greater than 100. So as long as it's not 10 and it's below 100, it is okay. So I was going to say my answer would be 9. Number 4, if you want to output right in the second piece of code, what would you insert in number 1 and number 2? Okay, so it has to be, so remember both of these have to be false for that to be true. So if we look here, it has to be less or equals to 5. So if we put this as 6, then that would be false. And if we put anything number 2, anything that's greater than 11, well, 10 is less than 11, so that would be false here. So you could keep number 2 the same, but as long as you increased number 1 by at least 1, you will have both of them as negative, and therefore within that not operator here, that means that would change that both negative ones to a positive, and then that will allow us to output that right. So you don't need to change anything to number 2, but you do need to increase number 1 to change that condition here from true to negative. So we're coming to the end of the video now. So hopefully you're able to answer these questions. If you can understand what the following symbols do and what they mean, that is good. You're getting prepared for the MTA exam. These are the most common ones that you'll encounter in the exam. You need to have a good idea of how to apply them. Can you make a condition for A is greater than or equals to B? So you need to make sure that you know the difference between greater than and greater than or equals to, and the difference in the symbols. And can you list all the rational and logical operators? So if you're able to do all of them, then I think you're in a good area for the MTA exam. Again, if you found this video useful, please like. If you're interested in learning more videos about how to pass the MTA exam, as well as a mock exam, please subscribe to the video and keep up to date with all the videos that I'll be publishing. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.